This is Morning at 10 TV. Many thanks for choosing us, of course, to run your Monday. Of course, yes, from Monday to Friday, we always do this, but it is not a Monday. We all know it's a Wednesday. It's a big, big day that, of course, the government is putting a lot of effort in, and I'm sure a majority of you, if you're watching me, I don't know if you've left home or you're already in the office. Let us know. Hashtag Morning at 10 TV. Now, today, of course, government, and at the top of that particular procession will be having the president of Uganda walking to kick out corruption from the country. We're expecting this particular walk to start at around 8 a.m. because that's when the president is expected. And they're going to be walking from Constitutional Square all the way to Kololo. Now, that will be our conversation. But before we get into just breaking down what this means for the country, and if it's just pure rhetoric or it's going to be followed by action that will indeed fight graft in the country, that will be the conversation later on. But at this point in time, let's link to Mr. Edward Muhumuza to give us more about what's happening on ground as we speak. Good morning, Edward.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. My name is Edward Muhumuza, and this is Kampala Road. I am standing, this is Pioneer Mall, and as you can see, this is the city square where people are warming up to take part in the walk. As you may have known through the news, thousands of Ugandans will be taking part in the anti-corruption walk, a sensitization walk that's aimed at sensitizing Ugandans to take part in the fight against corruption. The president will be the chief walker, and of course key government officials, the chief justice, the speaker of parliament, the vice president will all take part, government leaders. Now, this walk is held under a theme, a corrupt-free Uganda starts with me. But of course, as I told you, that government intends to sensitize Ugandans. Recently, the Daily Monitor did a story, and the IGG, the Inspectorate of Government, described this walk as an activity that will unite the country against corruption. But of course, critics, as quoted by the Daily Monitor, the national coordinator of ANT, Mugisha Muntu, for example, said this is a mockery to lie to Ugandans that the government is committed to fighting corruption. So, at around 8:30, the president is expected to get here at the city square, and people will join him along with other government officials to walk to Kololo airstrip and take part in this activity. The world and the country are looking at this activity closely, and of course, as you can see, people are walking, coming in, roads have been closed in a radius of around 100 or 200 meters. Cars are not allowed in the city. So basically, that's what is going on. We will be giving you the update as time go by, but for now, I can return back to you in the studio for the normal programming.
All right, many thanks, Edward Muhumuza. He is at the Constitutional Square, and like you've seen, yeah, cars are not allowed into the city. Like, a majority of the roads have been blocked out. So just in case you want to make your way around, leave your car at home and make sure that you make your way early enough, because you have quite a bit of distance to walk. Also, border borders are not allowed in some areas, so make sure that you calculate your time well enough. But let's just break that conversation about corruption, and we want your views as well. Hashtag Morning at 10 TV. You can also tag us directly at Malaki Vilaudera or at Romeo Busiku across all the social media platforms. What will it take for us to kick out corruption out of the country completely, just fighting graft? And so to have that conversation in studios, we are joined by Miss Samantha Byarugaba. She is a research officer from the Uganda Debt Network. Many thanks and welcome to Morning at 10 TV.
Thank you for having
Ms.
me.
Byarugaba, thank you for coming.
Hi.
Well, the president has made it clear today he shall be walking with another group from Constitutional Square up to Kololo, walking corruption out of Uganda. Do you think he'll be able to achieve that objective? today, because that's what he thinks. When we are walking from the Constitutional Square, everything related to corruption shall be left in our midst. Up to where? Kololo.
Kololo.
Yes.
Want
So
it
do
to
you
be
think?
dumped in Kololo?
So corruption will be left in
Will be
Kololo.
dumped in Kololo.
So what do you think?
Well, personally, I think on the political front and the economic front, it shows that he's trying to put out political will to like show that, okay, I'm putting a voice to this, I'm putting my face to this to say that we're ending corruption in Uganda. But in reality, you're not going to walk 4 kilometers and think you'll be done with corruption in the country. It's such a deep-seated issue that it's going to take a lot more than a walk. It's going to take action. It's going to take punitive, affirmative action to actually end corruption in Uganda. And we know that this is not the first time that this is happening. This is not the first time Museveni is coming out to say, oh, I have to kick corruption out of Uganda. 2016 started with Hakuna Mchezo. You know, we've had all this rhetoric before. But this is not new. This is not something like, yes, finally we've got it.
So this is not new. It is something we've seen before.
Yes.
And according to the people in the president's circle, they believe it's because of this corruption talk that cost the president some very good votes in the city centers, in the urban centers, because many people accuse his administration of being so corrupt. Now, with him coming out right now, with only a few months to August 2020, when we kick off the campaigns, do you think this is kind of like a campaign kind of scheme to have, you know, that to have that electorate in the urban centers just fall back to the Museveni side?
I like what you said about the people in the urban centers know that it's the people in the administration.
True.
Have an issue with the people in the administration who are dealing in corruption or who have had corruption scandals to their names. But it's going to take a lot more to convince those people because they know the people. Museveni himself knows the people, but what has been done to those people? You find that if he was in this ministry, he's just transferred to another ministry. If he was in local government, he's now brought to central government. It's just a reshuffle of the corruption.
So it's systemic.
It's systemic, exactly.
You know, Samantha, my question to you would be, you know, we hosted the State House anti-corruption boss, Lieutenant Edith Nakalema, yesterday at 9 p.m. Of course, Flavor Timosimo was doing the interview. And a majority of Ugandans, as I was, you know, looking through the comments on social media, they were asking, okay, fine, we're having a walk, then what? But what was coming strongly, of course, just to give, you know, government some, you know, some respect with regards to this as a stunt, they're saying that they want to show Ugandans that, hey, we are willing to fight this. So the walk is pretty much a symbolic thing for them, to show Ugandans that there's something to be done. We're not pro-corruption, we're going to fight it. But my question to you would be, if you are the one sitting at the advisory board, trying to think of a strategy to just pass on a strong message to Ugandans, as opposed to a walk, what would it be for you?
For me, punitive action. Get the corrupt and not the small fishes, because usually the blame is taken by the underdogs and then it disappears. No, look for the big names, look for the big dogs, take punitive action. Then Ugandans will be convinced. But right now, we have walked. we have talked, we have made policies. It's not enough.
Maybe we've failed to understand what corruption really is.
I think so.
Yes. What is systemic corruption? How can it be identified in the first place?
Well, many times people, there's also, I agree with you that we haven't understood corruption yet, because many times people see corruption as he took a bribe or they embezzled money or, you know, he went back door. But corruption goes to the littlest and the simplest of things. For example, if you're a doctor at a health center 3 and you don't show up, that's corruption, because my taxes pay your salary.
True.
So that's corruption. You're robbing me of a service. If I am if I have a company and I'm employing only my family, my cousins, my tribe, that's corruption. And then it also, of course, blows up into this big bribes, embezzlement. You get donor funds, you get debt, you get everything, but there's no delivery. So the systemic corruption comes in when it becomes a syndicate. it's from one entity into another. It's from one institution into another. They all
Wow.
come together.
So the system is really
Exactly.
engraved.
It's just it's engraved, and it's draining the economy. It's just it's a drain.
So, in the absence of a whistleblower act to protect people that might come forward to report such unscrupulous activities, what can we do in the interim? What can we do to put pressure on the government to, solve this issue?
So there is a Whistleblowers Act, but
There
I
is?
think yes, there is.
Okay.
There
There
is.
is, yes.
It exists, but the only issue is that people are not empowered. People don't know that you can stand up and put your foot down and say, no, I am not going to take this money, or no, I don't have to pay on top, above and beyond paying you to get a service. You want me to, do some backdoor business with you. I think it's going to start at the grassroots. It has to start at the lowest levels. But you have to understand that you can put your foot down and say no.
When we started the week Monday, and I'm sure you maybe saw the papers, the Daily Monitor, they were, this time round, I think guys were shocked because we had 100 names of people who were, pretty much set aside and said, these are the guys who stole X, Y, Z in terms of money. And with the statistics that are being given there, they were saying that out of the 100, thanks to the corruption of the 100, we are having 70 billion that was embezzled, and only 1 billion was retrieved. But when we look at the report, the 2015 report courtesy of Parliament, they're saying that for the past 10 years, Uganda has lost 24 trillion shillings. So why are we having this, lack of one figure coming from the same facet? We're expecting that we need to have a clear figure of what corruption is indeed costing the country.
Well, you see, I think that's the challenge. I'm not going to report myself. And I think that's the challenge we've had with government. It's that, I'm just going to give you an example. It's, for example, when you're dealing with, for example, debt figures. Ministry of Finance has a figure, BOU has a figure, NPA has a figure, Parliament has a figure.
Yeah.
It's not all out. So even in this corruption, Parliament, like you said, has a figure. You look at international reports, World Bank will have a figure, Transparency International will have a figure. Everyone has statistics, but no one is going to come out to stand or support one particular statistic, because then it leaves you in the place of, it leaves the public confused. You're confounded. You do not know who to take, who to believe, what to run with. And so if you don't have that backup and that evidence, how are you going to come out against them?
Exactly. And so, that in itself poses a risk or, a challenge with regards to fighting corruption, because how do you fight something you don't know?
Exactly. Which comes back to Romeo's thing, systemic corruption. It's, you just go around it, but you never actually deal with it. So now it has to come to a place where, that's what I was saying, people need to put their foot down and say, it's either this or this. Either corruption goes or it doesn't. And it can't come unless the people are empowered. The people need to know that you have the power to stand up and say no. It's in the Constitution. You have the power to stand up, call people out, speak about it as much as you need to, because one day you will be heard.
So I got a day off Monday and Tuesday, so I did take that time to go, talk to the people just down under there. Remember Sunday we had this story, panorama story on corruption. So I went down to the grassroots to ask the people, what is the main problem? And someone did tell me, blunt, he told me that if the NRM guerrilla people went to war, 81 to 85, President Museveni is sworn in, 86. Yes, the first thing the president did was to reward the people that helped him in the bush. Not with money, but with posts. So when these people got into those positions of power, what they first did was to accrue all the money that they had spent while in the bush, or to just pay themselves back for the suffering they had undergone while in the bush. And they were telling me this is the reason why you have this corruption that we are dealing with right now. It was created from the get-go, and that's why it is so systemic. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no, because if you look at the country's earlier days, for example, 1996, I think, Transparency International placed us at a corruption index of 115, which was not so bad considering how imbalanced the economy was. And then, but now we've gone all the way down to 151. That's bad. Out of 176 countries, that's a very, we're in the bottom percentile. So if you think about the earlier days and the strategies he had, because those guys went to the bush for the same things we're seeing today.
Yes.
The corruption, the power, you know, in few hands, inequality and all this. So those people amassing wealth for themselves in those positions could or could not be true. I cannot say much about that because that was their personal, you know, those were their personal things. But I think in a way, for some people, coming from the background they came from, power corrupted them.
Power corrupted
It was power
them.
that corrupted
So I
them.
did ask these people, so what are the solutions in that regard? And I was told the president would have to entrench the whole system.
Yes.
Let all the old guards go
All the-
and replace them with the young people. Is it feasible?
You can't say replace them with the young people, replace them with the right people. Because there are people in the old guard who are right. There are people in the old guard who still have their integrity, you know, setting. So it's, I don't think it's about the kind of people who will come. I don't think it's about the youth, the young people coming in. It's about the integrity and the character of the people that will come
I did
in.
agree with them because when you talk about the youth, you're talking about patriots, people who have the country at heart.
At heart,
You
yes.
wouldn't have a young person who's thinking of enriching themselves. The first thing is advancing their country in that regard. Mala, take that away.
All right, on this one, I think I agree with my dear here, how saying that it's the quality of integrity that you want. But, you know, when I was listening to, and we hosted the IGG the other year, and she was saying that when you break down corruption, there's bribery. Now, I want us to focus somewhat on solutions because bashing will not get us anywhere.
That's true.
So let us look at bribery. How can we best fight it?
I
Because corruption has different faces.
Yes,
There's
it does.
bribery,
Yes.
there's nepotism, there's all this
Fraud.
diversion
There's
of
all
public funds. So bribery.
bribery in itself. I think what pushes bribery is, first of all, sometimes you can't blame the people who take bribes. Okay, now I'm going to go to a smaller level because they feel like that's the only way they are going to survive. Look at the traffic officer who is standing on the road all day in the sun, in the rain, and the month ends and his salary is not released. But he has a wife, he has 5 kids at home. So it comes out of more of its circumstance. Necessity pushes him to need this bribe. So what needs to happen is it has to be an all-round solution. Why he doesn't have a salary is because money was released, but somewhere in the center it was diverted. So now this guy didn't have a salary. So now he has to, he feels the need to take the bribe from that guy who was overspeeding. So it's going to take an all-round like overhaul and reshuffle of the system, because it trickles down. It comes from the biggest player and trickles down to that traffic officer, and it also comes from the traffic officer and goes to you who is in the community. Because now if you have the audacity to pay that bribe, it means when someone comes to you, you're going to do the same thing. You either take the bribe or give the bribe.
You know, and let's just flip over, especially to even the government officials, them that are, you know, have all the powers to make business people operate within the city. Of course, you need permits, you need a license, you need all these things. And nowadays, what I hear from the business environs is that if you want your paper or document, you know, processed for much faster, you have to give
pay
chai.
kitu kidogo.
They call it chai, not
Chai.
bribery. So what will it take for us to just rub that off and start afresh and make sure that we have clear systems? Well, government agencies have tried, and they're saying that now you can access all these services on the e-platform. You don't have to come to our offices, and of course, you know, be prone to such, you know, unscrupulous employees who would want chai for them to expedite your processes. So now we have the e-systems, but what will it take for that? Is it a change of mindsets for all Ugandans or what?
Well, the e-systems is a good move because once you digitize the economy, it lessens human interactions. So the computer is not going to ask you for a bribe. If I have to just go online and use my card and pay for, the clear amount stated by the law, and I do that, then that's the way to go. Digitize the economy. Reduce this human interface. I know people will always argue that, oh, you're putting us out of jobs. No, you can still stay in your office and keep the records of the payments that have been done, track down those who haven't paid and go and arrest them. But like you mentioned, digitization is key.
So digitize and educate. Because we have the systems, but quite a number of Ugandans
People don't know
so
how
they
to
still
use
go
them.
to these people to help them out. So
That's true.
Well, Samantha, the second National Development Plan, that is the NDP, did attribute the reason why they failed to achieve, that middle income status by 2020 to corruption in our public administration systems. Help us draw a linkage between corruption and poverty in Uganda.
Well, like I mentioned before, corruption sucks out public funds, corruption sucks out life from the public system, it affects service delivery. So if corruption could persist, you cannot expect to get you can't expect to get rid of poverty. Because I think many times public servants, civil servants don't realize that they are public servants. You exist for the public and because of the public. Civil servants are supported by taxes, taxpayers' money and all that. So if you as a civil servant find it okay to rob people of the services you're supposed to give them or of the money that you're supposed to give them, money is supposed to go to a district to construct a road or even this bridge that we're hearing about. So that means kids who need to go to school are still going to have to use canoes, yet there could have been a bridge after the dam. So if you're going to if that persists, if this whole transfer and diversion of funds and services persists, there will be no end to poverty.
So if corruption persists, even it will be futile to launch the third National Development Plan. If from past experience, when you review the NDP 1 and the NDP 2, from all that you realize that we have not achieved what we expected to achieve, and among the reasons given in both plans, corruption. Because the NDP states out the plans we have, how are these plans going to be funded? So if you expect to fund plans a certain way, but the funds can't come through, that means you're not going to achieve those plans. And so if we enter the NDP 3 period with the same mindset, the same strategies, the same corruption going on, it's going to be So what can we do to
story.
fix that poor public administration? Because that's where the whole problem is coming from. The IGG came out and told us bribery is happening at the procurement level. They are talking about that poor public administration. So how can we fix that?
Public administration.
Entrenchment?
I would agree with that, yes. But I think the system in itself needs an overhaul.
Wow,
The entire system just needs an overhaul. You need new brains, you need new minds, you need new strategies, you just need something fresh to breathe life into the public system.
I've always called for an overhaul when it came to the Ugandan system right there. But guess what they called me, Mala? A radical. Romeo Busiku is a radical for calling an overhaul.
Right. Speaking of radicalism, we do have Stephen Bide